everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Podshots with Bhawna. Well, at Podshots with Bhawna, we never shy away by questioning the status quo or challenging the business as usual thinking. And this is what exactly we are going to do in today's show. Because if you are also the one who believes that B2B brands are those technical, basic, or so-called boring branding, then this is an episode which you cannot afford to miss, because we are going to break that myth. Because today, for the first time ever, I will be joined on the show by not just one guest, but two guests. So yes, you can actually call it as a Jodi show. So allow me a moment till I bring them up onto the screen for all of us. So for many years, people have actually either felt or even joked about B2B branding because of its, that seriousness, that blandness, or to that extent, calling it or labeling it as being boring. So this is something, it's just like that. I would say like a spinach, which nobody wants to have, but actually everyone should have. So the guests whom I have invited on my show are the ones who have taken up that spinach and they've added that masala spice, or rather the soul to that spinach, to make it very inviting and very healthy as well. So today I'm so pleased to be joined by the duo, the two minds behind 22 AM. So please welcome Maulik Chandarana and Apoorv Houzwala, the co-founders of 22 AM, a brand strategy and design firm. So they are the ones who are actually challenging this myth of B2B being boring, and they are actually on a mission to change the narrative to be B2B as unboring. So B2B as unboring is not just a philosophy, but something which they both are actually practicing. So they both come with a rich experience, expertise into branding, and especially helping B2B brands to become more bold, brave, and unboring. And in fact, they are actually making them more meaningful, more memorable, because as we have been living with a perception or a notion that jo dikta hai wo bikta hai, they are the ones who are challenging that by saying that jo yaad rehta hai wo bikta hai. So guys, please join me to welcome Maulik and Apoorva. Thank you so much, both of you. And in fact, today is the first time that I'm having two guests on the show. So it's a kind of a Jodi show, and Podshots with Bhawna is also a very unique and unboring. So I'm sure that our conversation is definitely going to be a very unboring one. So thank you and welcome once again, both of you.
Thank you so much, Bhawna. Just to start with, while you introduced us so well, and you started with spinach, right? I would like to say maybe we are the Popeyes who advocate spinach, and have, trying to influence the culture. Eat spinach is good for you, and thank you for joining us on this mission and believing in it. So, yeah,
yes.
Thank you so much for that.
So as I said, that you have added that masala and spice and soul to that boring spinach and made it very inviting for people to see it as a healthy option.
Yeah, in fact, Apoorv is right when he says first we have had to eat it to feel the power of it. Today we believe it so much so that now we are ready to tell people, "Bhaiya kha lo karke."
Correct. So guys, just to let you know, although you guys have been familiar with the show and you have seen a couple of these shows, but still to let you know the format of the show. So it's a short format of podcast. So that's the reason it's Podshots. So it's under 15 minutes show. So I'd be asking you some core questions, challenging some, as I said, some conventional thought processes, and to understand your views about the same. And then towards the end, we will have some real unboring, quirky questions as the rapid fire. So hope you both are okay. And shall we dig in?
Yeah. Well, only one thing, but only Bhawna, one thing I want to say before you, to put your questions many a times people think this unboring is doing something crazy and, sort of showing that muscle or the boldness. But I would like to, at the start of the show, say that unboring doesn't mean that you do crazy things for the sake of it. There has to be some business logic attached to it. We advocate the idea of unboring as something, not something which is just new. It could be something that is done for the first time as well. I mean, that is a very beautiful way of looking at it. A company may never have done something earlier, but if they do it with a belief, that becomes unboring for them. So, in a way, I would say it is thinking strategically and then acting crazy. I think this should set the context of our conversation.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely. In fact, this was one of the question which I am going to put across to you, and I'm glad that you have kicked off with the same thought process. So, since both of you come in from this industry predominantly into B2B, and as I said in the beginning, that there has been always a notion that B2B has that sameness, that blandness, and there's hardly any kind of differentiation between the B2B brands. So what, according to you, do you guys feel that there can be a reason of that there's so much of lack of, or reduction of the differentiation over the period of time? Where is it that brands are going wrong as per you guys?
So first thing I would like to say here is B2B businesses need to think beyond business. When they start thinking about the brand, that is where the differentiation, the first level of differentiation kicks in. Typically B2B में यही होता है कि धंधा चल रहा है, my business is going on, and why do I need to invest in a brand? And that is where everyone tries to do the same thing, tries to fight on functionalities like pricing, features, quality, delivery, and it gets difficult to then differentiate because everyone is offering almost the same thing. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, what Apoorv says is so right. In fact, businesses need to understand that brand, first of all, is not simply that logo or that design. Right. They need to understand brand as an, if I could say, financial asset, and that's difficult. That journey is not easy. And I'd like to be fair also to B2B companies. See, everyone started off as a business, and today it's cutthroat competition. But सिर्फ बिक्री करने जाओगे तो brand नहीं बनती है. Or brand, what we are trying to say, if it's a financial asset, then it has to be understood that it's also a set of, a behavior which has to be inculcated internally, or possibly it is some sort of an experience that you need to give customers beyond simply, sort of saying, sir, kharid lijiye na karke. I think differentiation, unfortunately, has not been the sort of priority for B2B firms, is because they don't see brand as anything which is adding any value to the business besides simply being that logo or the brochure or the website. And of course, in recent time, probably a social media account, jahan pe Happy Diwali karna zaruri hai. I think that.
No, absolutely. I completely echo with you, because I think there's still a lot of scope to create that education that brand is not just a logo, because many people still do not really understand. As you rightly said, it's an experience, it's an financial investment, it's an asset. So it's not just a plain logo or some social media random post is not what brand is. So that I completely agree. So coming to Maulik, what you started off as giving an introduction to your branding style or the behavior of 22am. So most of the people, when they think that unboring B2B, so it sounds as if, it itself is a tagline. So you put some quirky message and some random jokes or sarcasm and, call it as unboring. Whereas, according to me, I think it's more related to the clarity of the vision of the organization. So where do you think, according to you, that, B2B brands can own this kind of a clarity, and where do they actually shy away or they lack to get this clarity onto the board?
No, in fact, very nicely put. And in fact, we started off by also saying that unboring B2B was not this idea of doing things crazily, but about thinking for the result. Right. In fact, what I was speaking moments earlier, this idea of, and your question was very interesting, that why do they not want to differentiate? The journey begins when they understand that they need to. In fact, to give you a little example, sometimes if there is a celebrity being taken by a particular industry, suddenly people start, hiring tons and tons of, celebrities. That copying culture also is a part of not differentiating. And unfortunately, that is thought to be by companies to be unboring, but it is not. In fact, I might sound contradictory out here, Bhawna, but I think this is where that fine line comes in. That what is it that, When you understand that this is not differentiation, this is simply copying, and suddenly you realize that this branding has to be done for a business, that's when you step into this world of let's get clarity. And with that clarity, you do these things of unboring, which is, like I said, something for the first time, or something that you have never done before, or something that you have tried and failed, but now you're doing it with renewed vigor and an eye on an objective. I think if you keep this in your mind well, then that's where real value of brand building happens. And I'm not using the word branding for the sake of it, because like I said, branding is very loosely applied, like logos bana liya, patiya laga liya, I sent out happy Diwali notes or things like that. But if I say brand building, then that becomes a business function. And I think then this unboring B2B is no more a tagline. It becomes this mission that we are trying to propagate among people. And I'll accept one thing, Bhawna. In fact, maybe Apoorv will also agree, and I think you should add. Initially, when we started out by saying, unboring B2B, people are excited, but then they think it's a tagline. But then we have to educate, like you rightly pointed out. And then this is the challenge of it, in which we are happy. At the same time, we know what are the pains also, because ultimately a business feels that pehle paisa kab milega, and brand building is not a short-term exercise. It is a little bit long-term at one point.
And also one more point, very very interestingly put by Maulik, and just to take it ahead, clarity also means, of course, I mean, most of the businesses have their business objective very well sorted, and then how can the brand align and help achieve those business objectives is where the clarity and the roadmap for brand is established. At the same time, clarity also means consistency, because let's say, for example, you are building a brand, you are investing in it, you have that clarity, and now the next step is to maintain that consistency. Like even the small thing, using your brand assets like a color or a font very consistently and not compromising on it. Many B2B brands often get bored of the same own assets or same own color, same own font. अभी हो गए एक साल हो गया बदल देते हैं. No, that is not how it works. That is where the consistency comes into the picture and the larger objective of clarity is met.
Sure. So I think it's as you guys rightly said, it's not a one-time objective, or it's not a transactional thing. It's a long-term kind of a thing. So same coming to that, still, and this I can talk from some of my experience, because I have been always into B2B industry, that many a times the leaders start with that bold vision and taking that step forward with whether full willingness or half-hearted approach or whatever we call it as. But there is always a gap between the strategy and the design, because at the end of the day, they might start up with a very bolder or a braver approach, but they land up asking or opting for a safer options, the so-called safer options. So since you guys have been into it, so if quickly you can let us know that, how do you guys break that safe zone kind of a thing with your clients?
So basically, I mean, we almost have to deal with this every day. And I mean, B2B businesses in India, majority businesses are family run or a founder led business. We ask or our conversations usually start with a question to the leaders or the founders, wherein today the business is running on your name or your goodwill. If tomorrow, let's say you are not around, will your business still run the same way it is running today? That is where while they have big objectives, audacious goals to achieve, but if they say the business will still run even if I am not around, I mean, we say, okay, thank you, maybe then you don't need to create a brand. But in most cases, almost in all cases, they said it may not run the same way. That is where the brand is required.
This is where that moment of truth comes in, what Apoorv is pointing out, I mean, see, there was a time when competition was lesser, markets were growing, it was easy. Okay, let me not say easy. I think I'm wrong here when I say easy. Maybe, but the environment was open for people to set up success stories. And there are people, one man who has set up, then the second generation has come in, and it has gone. Today, that's not happening. I mean, imagine if a new B2B company comes in and says that I'm also talking about current, while Apoorv did speak of the ones which are legacy, but the current ones, how difficult is it for them? Think also in B2B, one thing, Bhawna, I think it's very, very obvious that, see, B2B mein ek banda nahi buy karta. There are multiple people who are influencing it. So obviously, many a times there is this, you spoke of safety. So when a buying is taking place in a B2B journey, it is always easy to buy from a vendor from whom you have purchased earlier. And I brought this up, in the conversation is if you have a new B2B. Now, if that new B2B is never going to do something quote unquote unboring or something risky, or you said na that जो बोलते हैं बात अगर वो behavior नहीं बनती है, how are they going to get recognized? That's not going to happen at all. So in that perspective or that context, if you sort of put in what is there versus what is happening, building, also the second generation coming in, the way exposure has changed today and competition has changed today, I think very clearly it shows that B2Bs have to evolve. It cannot run by the name of one person. It cannot run with the name of a firm which has been known. I think this is where that sort of the circumstances force people to change is what I would say. Yeah.
So this brings to the point where where we started that the memory which is an everlasting memory which a brand actually leaves behind as an imprint. So the message stickiness, if we have to call it as. So in your so-called the notion breaking of जो दिखता है वो बिकता है thing से लेके to that जो याद रहेगा वो बिकता है. So how according to you guys feel that in these times when the attention span of the audience is really decreasing, so how do you think that you guys are helping the B2B brands with this message stickiness for everlasting time?
So, Bhawna, one thing I'd like to sort of begin here with is that first thing, and you spoke it very rightly, that बहुत सारा education करना पड़ता है करके to make people understand, And today you have the digital world, so there are a lot of likes and stuff by which people start judging results. What I would like to sort of give a point would be that we have to probably teach people that marketing is not just communication. So many times when you speak of stickiness, somewhere down the line, it is just about communication. Maybe you create an ad or you set out an email blast or something like that. But no, marketing ka job is not only to communicate this and create that stickiness or that memorability as we speak of. Marketing has various other functions also. Now, and then there is this debate which goes on, and I think maybe you and I will go into a conversation wherein we speak that business has many functions which include HR, supply chain, logistics, marketing, various. And then the question comes in, does brand building become a function of marketing, or does brand building become a function of business? Because brand defines for the entire business the way to move forward. And I think most people do not see it brand building as a function of business. They see it as a function of marketing. And the minute you do that, suddenly the marketing is going to become communications oriented. It is going to become short term. It is going to become tactical. And I think that's where the entire change happens. So while you are talking about memorability, which is necessary, and why is it necessary? Because again, the buying cycle is not, it's not that I'm going and buying like a toffee every third day, or I'm having an ice cream, chalo, correct. It's maybe a machine being bought in once in 5 years. At that point of time, I need to be remembered. But during those periods of 5 years, 10 years, the brand has to still live with its business. And the brand has to percolate into various departments, various people. Influencers are there, there are gatekeepers. I mean, these are theoretical terms, technically speaking, but they make a lot of difference if you understand, and they differ from sector to sector. So if I'm sort of able to answer you, Bhawna, while memorability is what we are harping on and we are trying to say unboring is a thing, but this is the very proof of what I said moments ago, that it is not about just a creative expression. It's about a long-term business goal, which is attached to this brand building. And then the creative could become possibly an expression of it, which is utilized to achieve that goal. So creativity is not an isolated act anymore. I think this is where the difference comes in and where memorability really sort of sticks.
And how does it also amplify or make an impact is when businesses or B2B brands have this awareness that one business is not just talking to another, they are talking to people behind those businesses. And that is where the emotional aspect, relating to the particular person, because there are humans on that side.
Exactly. Well. I was about to say that many times people feel that, B2C is the one where you're actually connecting, but B2B is also, you are dealing with the humans. So there is, how can you leave apart that emotional aspect of it?
Well, in fact, we sometimes tell people, that the person who is probably a manager at the office is probably that papa who is driving home, and maybe he needs to see something which will, this is something that is going to be useful. Maybe a machine which is going to create a toy for his child, I don't know, but this is the way to think, can you appeal to those senses? And one might argue with me that, does that mean that, we have to do mass media? Is that necessary that we have to do what B2C does in terms of activations? No, that might not be the answer. But the first step is understanding that we are talking to humans. I think that is what is important. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, coming back to the thought process. So it's time to break those conventional, traditional uh, perspectives which knowingly, unknowingly people have built for B2B. So that I think needs to be broken, and there are a lot of myths which have been created over the years. So I'm sure, and seeing the kind of great work which you both are doing, I'm pretty sure that you guys are on that mission to change that narrative, and I'm sure the day is not far when 22 a.m. would really hold that flag high and bring that thing onto for the masses. So with this, I think we are done with the core format. So now it's time for the rapid fire. So if you guys are ready, shall I put the timer on?
Yes, I'm looking forward to that one.
Okay. So one word to describe most B2B websites today.
Oh,
Boring.
without a second thought.
Okay. So if B2B branding was a gym workout, so what would it relate to? A cardio, a strength training, or a yoga?
That's an interesting one, Karke. We'll have to think twice, Karke.
I would say it should be equally divided in all three, because building strength, having your immunity or your strength go on with cardio, and then also having your
And the flexibility of yoga.
Absolutely.
Actually, you know what I was going to say? I was going to say, भैया yoga को हटा दो, बहुत आराम कर लिया, अभी चलो.
Yoga is basically,
I do understand. I'm not saying no, but ultimately, I don't think everybody does everything all of it together. But and I think B2B has done. I mean, see, if you're talking about legacy businesses, they've got their successes, and I'm not going to say they didn't run for it, but वो yoga type हो गया, अब हो गया. So now something more. Okay, so maybe
okay, guys, I think let's not land up in something really unsafe. So one thing B2B marketers worry too much about.
हाँ, लोग क्या कहेंगे?
Correct. Okay. Now let me ask, since both of you are there together, so this I don't want any safe answers, so it has to be really candid. So who is more likely to say let's push it out of both of you?
Maulik.
Okay. One thing which you both always disagree, but eventually it really works out well.
सोच के दौड़ो, दौड़ के सोचो.
Okay, I'm glad it's working out. Okay, the last one. Between these two, coffee-fueled brainstorms or the whiteboard chaos, what would you choose?
Brainstorms any day.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You need people to. So actually, I would say we should call this entire mission, instead of unboring B2B, Mara Mari maybe. It's like this.
So is it the shots are coffee shots, or it's just the whiteboards for the brainstorm?
Maybe having a cup of coffee or a chai in your hand and at the same time doing your work on the board. Both at the same time.
Great, guys. This brings to an end of the rapid fire. So we are right on time, and it was wonderful speaking to you both. I think the energy, the charge, and the momentum which you guys are building up, I really wish you guys good luck. And 22 a.m. should definitely change the entire perspective. And I hope that you really bring the change of boring B2B to unboring B2B very soon. And many people would join the hands, I'm sure.
Thank you, Bhawna, for giving us the opportunity to put our thoughts. And I know it was a little time, but I think when people like you recognize us or probably give us these platforms, we are able to reach out to people.
Absolutely.
I think somewhere down the line, so just to end from our side, we often say that, there is something called a safe and in your face kind of thing, when you give clients a kind of a solution, and many a times what happens that there is also a mid path which people pick up. A से इसको भी ले लेते, थोड़ा उसको भी ले लेते. But I think somewhere I wish we are into a space where people say, you know what, let's get this business going, let's be in your face and let's achieve. I think the day we are able to do that, I think
that would be a real
success for us. Absolutely. Yeah.
Sure. Wishing you all the good luck, and thank you once again for coming up on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bhawna.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Okay, so it was such an unconventional, unboring, and candid conversation where I'm sure that whether you are a founder, a leader, or someone who's starting up their own business and always wanting to do something differentiating and not really blending, I'm sure there was a lot of takeaways from this episode for each one of you. So as Maulik and Apoorv said that, or they always say that boring is not any category constraint, but it's a choice. So the choice lies with you to choose unboring over the boring and be more bold, brave, and a real memorable B2B. So this was a wrap for today's episode. And till we meet next time, stay curious, stay healthy, take good care of yourself and your loved ones. See you next time, same show in this unconventional, unique Podshots with Bhawna. See you there. Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Podshots.